terminals, running a cluster, seeing what commands have failed, what have not failed. So all the interactions directly from your IDE and everything on the demo. So let's go ahead with that.
Let's dive in. Sorry, I'm struggling with streaming over here. It's good fun.
Okay.
All right.
So as you're getting this prepped up,
Yeah.
is this a OpenShift 4.5 environment that you're going to be showing today?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. We always love the latest and greatest, even stuff from the future on this show.
Okay, so let me just share the screen.
Sure. The wonders of Zoom screen sharing. Here we go. I can hold this look forever.
Okay. Great things have happened always with the live demos. So now my Mac says I have to quit to share the screen. Great.
Awesome. Well, I can do a show and dance thing. This always happens with Zoom if you haven't opened it this week, which is Tuesday. So that explains everything. Here we go.
Okay, so you can see it, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Looks good.
Awesome. Okay, so this is the VS Code instance I'm running, and currently I have the OpenShift connector extension installed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see on the left navigation bar, this is the icon which shows that this extension is installed. And if it is not, you can just go to the extensions tab and just search for OpenShift. That we cannot connect to the marketplace. Great, but yeah, this is how it will look. So
live. But no, what you should see, what you'll see is OpenShift connector icon. It'll look exactly like the OpenShift O, and you can just hit install and go from there. We have no idea
even
what's
you
going
can
on with the marketplace right now with VS Code.
Okay, so VS Code marketplace is not there, but anyway,
fun.
So if you see, this is how it will look, and this is how the descriptions are. It's already installed. So let's go jump in directly to the demo. We have multiple screens here. One is basically the application explorer, which will basically show you the projects which are present in your cluster. And this cluster can be a local OpenShift cluster, or it can be a OpenShift cluster hosted on different cloud providers using AWS or Azure, or in any dedicated OpenShift environment. So on the top of this application explorer, you see there are different icons, which basically allows you to perform different actions, specifically to log into a cluster, to switch your context with different kube context, to refresh your cluster. And the latest addition which we have with this release is you can create your own OpenShift cluster directly from your IDE. So currently, the only way to run a local OpenShift instance.
Did you say you can build it directly from the IDE?
Yes, you can just start your OpenShift cluster directly from the IDE.
All right. Show me.
Okay. So if you just go ahead and click over here, right? So a new view is open on the VS Code side. This view allows you to understand that what are the different options which you have to run your local, to run OpenShift cluster. One of them is running locally, and currently it is just supported by Red Hat Code container. So that's the only way where you can run your local OpenShift instance. And this supports OpenShift 4.x. So if we need to run OpenShift 3.x, we need Minishift or CDK. But if you're running OpenShift 4.x, Red Hat Code and Ready Containers is the way forward. And the second one is if you need to run any OpenShift instance on any cloud provider supported by Red Hat, like AWS, Azure, and GCP, as I mentioned. So you can just go here. This will lead you to the official documentation which is there, and you can follow the steps. And once you have your cluster running, you can just go ahead and do login from here, and everything will work smoothly. But the idea here is for a developer who wants to run a local OpenShift on their laptop, they need not do anything leaving their editor and just go ahead and do create cluster. So as soon as you do this, you get a wizard workflow, which allows you to just read the descriptions, follow the steps, and within 3 to 4 clicks, you will have your own cluster up and running. So if you see, we have provided the basic description, which is there. So this supports the latest version of Red Hat Code Ready containers. So it is 1.15.0. This week, we're having a new release of it. So that will be 1.16, and that will also be supported here. So I'm hoping people use the latest one again and see what changes are there. And with this, we support OpenShift 4.5.7 instance of OpenShift cluster. So once these informations are there, you just go ahead and next. So here you see there are two options. If you need to download the bundle which comes with code ready containers, the bundle size is approximately 2 GB because it has the image and it has other registries which has bundled together. That is where the size of the image is a bit higher on the higher side. So either you can download it from here itself, or you can manually download it from the location and just provide the path here. So the idea here is you should always have the path of the binary which is running. If it's a Mac, you have the binary, or if you're .exe on Windows, and on Linux, it's a normal file. So if you don't have the bundle there, you just go ahead and do download. So VS Code will prompt you that, okay, this is the location from where you can extract the tar file. And if you say open, it will automatically download this crc.macOS.AMD6 in your laptop, whatever location you provide. So I already have that in my system because the size is 2 GB. So not ideal scenario for demos, but it's already there in my system. So once you have this downloaded in a path, you just go ahead and select the path of the bundle.
Nice.
So now I go here and see I have already downloaded.
And I don't think anybody blames you for downloading a 2 gig file in advance. No one's going to hold that against you.
Yeah. So we have the CRC running. So just open it. So this is the location where my CRC bundle is present. And I go next. So next thing which is needed, we need a pull secret file to run this OpenShift instance locally. So if the pull secret file is not downloaded, the same way we go here and download the pull secret file and save it somewhere. And once the full secret file is saved, I've already saved it just for the demo. So I just go ahead and select the full secret part, like search. Okay. So this is the full secret which I have. I just say, okay, open. Now, the next thing is code ready containers requires some amount of CPU cores, and the minimum which is needed is 4. And the memory which needed is around 9 GB of your laptop. So that's on a higher side.
And that's with all the bells and whistles, right? That's that's
everything.
Monitoring, everything installed.
Yes. So the thing with code ready containers is it is not a production supported OpenShift instance, but it has all the scenarios which are needed for the development purposes. So that, and it includes everything. That's why the build is the memory required is approximately 9 GB and with 4 cores of CPU. But if you need to just increase it, you can just go ahead and increase it here, or you can just leave it to say 4. And this is the minimum. So these two are the minimum requirements. You can just update it based on your configuration of a laptop. Once this is done, you just go ahead and say next. So you see, these are the few different parameters which we just needed to get your OpenShift instance running. Now, once you have this configuration set up, you just have to do a setup CRC, which basically will test out all the minimum requirements which are needed for code ready containers to run. So if I do setup CRC, there will be a window which basically a terminal which comes up from VS Code side. And if you're running on Mac or on Windows, it will prompt you for a password for the sudo permissions. I have already provided them the sudo permission once, so it doesn't ask me twice. So once that is there, you see it perform all the operation checks whether the binary which OC binary which is cached or not. If it is not, it will download it. The podman, the CRC bundle, and this is the location where the bundle is cached. And all other informations like the hyperkit, the drivers which are related to your OS is there or not, and all other file permissions which are there. So once these all permissions are up and there, you just need to do CRC start. So if you're using a command line interface to run it, you have to manually first do CRC setup, and then again you have to do CRC start. But from the ID perspective, once you see the setup part is done, you just go next and just do start cluster. And once this cluster is up and running, it will take some time, approximately 4 to 5 minutes, based on your CPU size also, because it's a very memory exhaustive process. But within those amount of time, you will have your local OpenShift 4.5.7 cluster up and running. And once those clusters are up and running, you can just go ahead and do login through it and start your debug, deployment, and code directly on OpenShift. So if you see, the idea was you need not leave your editor anytime. You have to do everything directly from your editor. So you can just start your OpenShift, and from your editor, you can log into your OpenShift instance. You can write your code, deploy that code, debug your code directly from your VSCode instance. So that's the entire end-to-end workflow which we wanted to target. And I'm just waiting for this cluster to get started so that it's there. Once this is done, so what happens? Users might have a question that what happens when I close my VS Code? Will the cluster go shut down, or what's the next step? How to get the information about the cluster? So that bit also I will be showcasing in the coming demo right now. Let the cluster get started. So we have more there on the UI perspective.
While this cluster is warming up,
yeah.
Someone made I was watching the chat and someone was commenting about the amount of RAM and CPU that this was expecting. I don't usually use, my IDE that I usually use is VI, so it uses a very small amount of RAM in comparison. And so I don't know how to compare kind of apples to apples, how much a thick Java IDE would normally take up. RAM from a RAM perspective. But this, what we're comparing it to, isn't just one user's IDE. This is a multi-tenant server of IDEs. So running it on your laptop is one way to get work done, but usually you wouldn't need a multi-user IDE server all for your own purposes. It's nice that it's possible though, right? And that you can use it in a kind of non-production capacity to get your work done. So yeah. I think that's one way to kind of explain the extra memory that's being used up here.
Yeah, I mean, we're running a cloud distributed system on a single node.
It's a full cloud, yeah.
Right, like you have to look at it like that. I mean, Kubernetes is a container orchestrator at global scale. OpenShift adds on production-ready functionality to make that a viable experience. Putting all that on one machine is difficult, right? Like it is an engineering challenge. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so once let this thing run in the background. So if you go to the, okay, so these all informations which are like the location of your bundle, the pull secret file, and the configuration which you have selected. These are stored in the user settings of VS Code. So whenever user just closes the VS Code instance and again opens it, those configurations are always there on the VS Code instance. So you need not do these steps, 4 to 5 steps again when you are running the same CRC. So that basically helps for the say productivity wise, because you need not follow these steps again. You have already everything set up. So if you do that way, so on Mac, you do Command Shift and P, and in the first you have Open User Settings there, and in the Workspace tab, you just go and type OpenShift. So if you type OpenShift, currently these are the places where the information is stored. So this will store the binary location. So once the cluster is up and running, then only this place gets fills up. Otherwise, it remains empty. These are the configurations which we selected during the configuration. The CPU cores and the memory are located. And this is the location where the pull secret file resides. So once we again close this and start it, it will basically fetch from those location itself. Okay, so I'm assuming it will take few more minutes, but yeah. So
So by the
Dev
time
says
this is done, oh, go ahead.
There's an Apex 15 notebook that has 16 cores in it. Go for it.
Aha.
I mean, we're getting to the point now where there's so many chips, like actual chips, like in an iPhone, right? I know this is ARM versus x86, but like the density and compute power that we're carrying around in our pockets is becoming intense, right? So as the world kind of turns, we're going to have to start realizing that our systems are becoming more robust as a result of all the code they're running. Like Narendev mentioned, I think Flutter, he needed 2.3 gigs or 2 to 3 gigs for development in that language alone in his IDE. So yeah, this is a super interesting problem in space that we're in right now with having to test cloud level and scale systems, but on a local level, right? Because we need that. We need that functionality in our lives.
Yeah, so this requirement was there for any end-to-end scenario to be successful, because we anytime need an instance of OpenShift there to just test out all the debugging part and deployment part directly and just try it out, okay, it works. So after having this scenario there, we need not worry about it. It's running. We just have to connect it and start working with it. So that becomes much easier for the local development, at least, and even the inner loop to be there. So if you see on the VS Code, this output channel tab here, you can see the different logs which are running. So if you click on the CRC logs, you can see what is the current scenario of the start operation. And these all are the operations which basically informs you that what things have happened. The binary has been checked, the code ready containers VM has been checked. And if you see here, it says starting code ready containers for OpenShift 4.5.7. So you all those informations are even handy when we try to check the logs if something is broken or something is not working, so that if there is any feedback loop which needs to be done, you can just help us out with the logs and we can just see what is broken or not. So it performs all the operations like the DNS queries and all the kubelet informations and everything, the code ready containers. So the idea of implementing this on the extension side is let the user have all the functionality which is there on the CLI on the editor, also on your favorite ID. So that should be as easy as possible. Okay, I think we'll have the cluster soon, because now it's gone to the updating kube config. So which means that we have the kube config information there, the username and the password are with us. And the code ready containers, what it does, it automatically makes an entry of the developer and the kube admin username directly in the kube config, so that if you need to just manually check your kube config or share it with config to somewhere, so it will have the entry of the CRC there. Okay, so awesome. So if you see, the cluster is up and we have the credentials here. What is the developer username password and what is the kube admin username password?
Is there any way you could blow up that text? I know that might be hard inside the IDE with Electron and everything, but like Command ++ on just that window, maybe.
Okay.
Does that work? No, that does the other.
Oh, it did the top
Oh my
half.
gosh. Okay, Electron, here we come. Geez.
Gotta configure your fonts.
Oh Lord.
So
I just like I'm having a problem reading it, so I know other people might. That's all. But like it's kind of readable now, so that's better. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
now
good.
if you see the information which is here is the cluster might be reported and degraded on error state, because as I mentioned that it's not a production ready environment, because some of the operators have been disabled just because those are not actively used during the development part. But if you see the view here, let me just minimize this. Okay, so once the cluster is up and running, you can see the status that code ready containers is running. It is in degraded state because it's not exactly production one, because some of the operators have been disabled. You can also see what is the disk usage being taken up by this. So it is a bit on a higher side, but this is how it is. The cache is 26 gigs and the disk size is 12 gigs. So we try to provide all the informations which are needed for the user to understand that how much memory this is taking from the system, so that they know that if they are not using it at that point of time, they can just stop this instance, So you have this stop cluster action also. So once we do a stop cluster, this code ready containers instance will just stop directly from your ID. Before going to that, so as you saw, we have this information of the kube admin and the password here directly on the CLI. So you can, using this information, we can just do a login here. So let me just try this. Coming up in the next releases, what we are going to do, we are going to give an action directly on here itself. So you need not do this login from here. You can just do a login and it will automatically refresh this application explorer. So stay tuned for that release, which will be in coming few weeks. Okay, so if I do,
That's super useful to see the amount of disk that the VM is taking up. And there's not a delete button that I see on this page, but to at least have visibility into that, I'm always running low on disk space. And frequently I've got old VMs that need to get cleaned up. So
yeah. So now I'll just try to showcase you that if you have this, you can just do a quick login. So just credentials, and I'll provide URL is this api.crc.testing, and username is kubeadmin. So if you see, this information is directly being fetched from the kube config. So as I showcased you here, it says updating kube config. So it always does an update in the kube config itself. So when we do a new login, it will provide you a kube admin context in the kube config file. So that way it becomes very easier for the user to just select it and go ahead. So, but let me just write it down manually, kubeadmin, and I'll just provide this password. Keeping all my fingers crossed, it will work. Okay. Okay, so if you see on this side, okay, I knew this would happen because it's a live demo. So connection has been refused, but if you, okay, if you go here, so if you see, it mentions that you can run CRC console to access this web console, but you need not do that from the ID. You just have to do OpenShift console and just do open. So it will basically open a new tab on your browser. And there is some problem with the internet, but okay. Let me just, so if I do a refresh cluster, let me see what's the status of CRC currently. If there is some lag, I'm assuming due to the internet stuff it is there, but ideally the lag should not be there.
So there's a couple example commands in the output. Don't let me interrupt you if you're in the middle of something, but those example commands, would those be something you'd type into this embedded terminal here, the crc ocenv and crc console commands?
Yeah, so the CRC console command is basically the is already embedded. You just have to do open webs console, and that will basically run the CRC console command.
Okay.
So that's there. And if you see this this api.crc.testing, this is basically the server URL which is there, which we need to connect to the running instance of CRC.
Okay.
So that is also embedded. So all the commands which are here present here, if you see, these commands are already embedded in the UI. So we did not manually type anything in the status. Okay, so the currently code content is still running, and that right again, it should open it up. Over the site console. Okay, there might be some firewall issues. But this is how the instance is for. And now let's go to the part which I mentioned. So if you see here, the user settings, which was there empty in the CRC binary location, now has the entry of the location where your CRC binary is present. So once that is there, let me just close it and say I have closed this. My VSCode is done, everything is done. And I again want to start the CRC instance. So I just do a plus here again, and it will open up. the screen. Okay, so if you see, it basically it figures out, okay, the CRC bundle location is already there. So user has already started in the previous run CRC. So it doesn't go to the wizard again. It basically gives you a setup directly in uh, the status bar, where we figured out that what's the status of code-ready containers, what's the disk size, what's the VM size, and everything. So it performs a refreshing of the cluster because the cluster might have been switched off. You might be logging into your system, say after 3 or 4 days, and the cluster might have been stopped. So now if you see the status is everything displayed, it is running, it is this and all other information. And from here itself, you can do a stop cluster. So as soon as you do stop cluster, basically you'll see in the terminal, let me again maximize it, stopping the OpenShift cluster. And this will also take few more minutes just to stop the instance and everything. Once that is done, you can see the disk usage and everything becomes 0. So you understand that, okay, the code ready containers is really switched off. It's not taking any more memory from the system, and that's it. And once you want to start it again, you just have to do start cluster again. So the simple workflow. And in the next case, if you want to say, right now we are using 1.15.0 instance of code ready containers. So if you see, it stopped and the version is 1.15.0. Disk usage is 0. Now again, if I need to start it again, I can just do start cluster and it will perform the same operations again. But if I need to say run a different version of code CRC, and then I have to follow the same wizard workflow again, and then I have to go and do reset, and again I am back to that same workflow wizard. And again I have to provide the binary location, download the latest version, and do all these steps again, because then those configurations will be updated. But if I say do it just few steps and just close it again, so that won't affect anything. It will again be on the same status which was previously, and it will fetch the same bundle.
So what's the release cadence that we have for CRC today? Is it, do we have a specific release cadence? Is it every 3 months or?
No, it's every 3 weeks. So
3 weeks?
I guess.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So they are going to have a new release, I guess, maybe today.
Okay.
So that will be 1.16. And based on that release, we will be updating our extension to support that. So right now they have 1.15 and they support the OpenShift version 4.5.7. So in the next release, whatever version of OpenShift they support, that will be supported from the IDE perspective also.
And how frequently is OpenShift connector being updated? Is that also every 3 weeks?
Yeah, so we try to do it every 3 weeks, but if in case of certain scenarios where we need to have specific bug fixes or specific enhancements which needs to be done, so that can be done a bit earlier too, or maybe a bit later too. But we try to follow in synchronization with code ready containers and even Odo, because the entire load of showing all the application explorers and all the tree and structure is based on Odo. So that way.
Nice.
And so if you see, this basically is very quick and easier way to run a local OpenShift. And you saw I have not left my VS Code instance like for 1 second also. So that is like very easier to deploy your code and debug your code, and
awesome.
parallelly everything is like running. So that way it helps your interaction with OpenShift much smoother. Yep, I think that is there for the demo. And
so what does this enable developers, even admins for that matter? Like, how can they put this in their current workflow today so that they can get benefit from it?
For this, you just need to download the extension directly from VS Code Marketplace, and that's it. And you are up and running with it. Whatever information which is needed to run code ready containers is there on the wizard workflow. So users will have all the information which are needed for them to do it. And it's like few steps which are needed. You just have to provide the location of your binaries and pull secret, and that's it. And you can just do start, and everything will be handled by the ID.
And can you talk a little bit more about the advantages of using CRC on your laptop as a developer?
Yeah, so for example, we try to run code-ready containers every time we do a development on OpenShift, because that it becomes easier because you have the local instance running on your laptop. You need not worry about any instance which is hosted on AWS or on Azure, and you do not worry about the downtime of it, or whether there might be some scenarios where developers might need to pay to use AWS or even on Azure. So developers need not worry about that part of it. Let the IT team worry about it. The developer idea is to just write code, deploy and debug that code, and try to get it running on OpenShift. So that's the exact end flow. But so when you use code-ready containers, you get minimal version of latest OpenShift. I would say, like, we have 4.5.7, which is very latest OpenShift version. And once you have that, you can test out your code directly on top of it. And it's very minimum step to start code-ready containers and even to stop code-ready containers. So if you don't need code-ready containers at that point of time, just stop it and you carry on with other work. And if you need, you just do a start. So based on your memory requirement specification of a laptop, it will take around 5 to 10 minutes just to provision a new instance of OpenShift, and that's it. So that way you do not worry about that whether to get access of a hosted environment of OpenShift or not. So for a developer perspective, that becomes very easier.
Yeah, so it's providing the opportunity for cheaper access, and if you don't have access to the internet,
yeah,
it's an easy solution.
It's right
for
here,
you, right?
Yeah, like
right?
you don't have to go out to your pipeline to get some testing done, right? Like
do that
cool.
2 gigabyte download early though before you switch off your internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, for sure.
I had a question. Thanks for this demo. This is really cool. Does
this
this
is slick? Yeah.
Does this also set up things like my Helm chart registry or other things that Odo would want to use for talking for storing dev files and other assets like that?
So if we need to set up those Helm charts, I guess those can be done by installing through operators. So currently, this instance of code-ready containers which are running from the IDE does the basic installation of your OpenShift instance. And if you need to install any other operators, we can manually do it from the operator hub, or I guess going to.
Okay.
So yeah, so what you'd get, I think, from the Helm chart perspective is you'd get our default Helm repository, like we do, like normal. Okay. And then if you wanted to do any customization, which we're not allowing you to do till 4.6-ish, till future, you could then configure it afterwards. But you should get the default. You should get the default home repo.
And then there's the dev file registry as well. This would probably have a locally hosted dev file registry or something.
So that's an interesting question. I don't know, because we're running 4.5 of OpenShift, how that would work. That might be something that, Mohit, I don't know if you know the answer to that one.
Yeah, Mohit, dude.
No, I have not yet tested out dev file with this version of OpenShift, but maybe we can just have
for this purpose, though, if I had a connection to a hosted environment and a team that I was collaborating with, I might want to point to a dev file registry that's hosted by my staging effort, or by some part of my engineering team or whatever. Yeah. Right. And it looks like if I have a real network connection, hopefully can just reconfigure the dev file registry endpoint to take advantage of that.
So, sorry, Ryan, I
no,
go ahead there. So Big Sur, Mac OS Big Sur has virtualization kind of built in under the hood. Are we looking into the future at like connector using that virtualization as opposed to some other virtualization tool?
I guess for now we have the most supported drivers, I guess, HyperKit and Hyper-V itself.
Right.
Maybe I'm not sure whether code-ready containers, I guess they are not using VirtualBox. They're going to get rid of the VirtualBox also. But we need to check with the core team of code-ready containers whether they have tested on the Big Sur scenario or not as of now. But yeah, I think that's a good question to get them started. Maybe next time we should call up them and ask them to have a small demo around that scenario too.
That'd be cool. Yeah. So yeah, I just asked because I discovered that there's like native virtualization inside Mac OS coming soon. So yeah, but to let everybody know, right? Like as soon as Mohit was done with his demo, I started doing it over here on my VS Code instance. I had to actually blow away my old OC configuration before I got started, and just literally just went through the whole process, and it's spinning up a cluster right now. So like it's so easy. Chris Short can do it, which I don't know if that's easy or not, but it's easy enough. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's you've done a very good job making this a nice, painless process, right? Like if I have to download 2 gigs, that's no big deal nowadays, right? Like
Chris, what system was that? Was that on an Apple machine?
This is a Mac. The actual VM is still starting right now, but
is it a Big Sur Mac?
No, it's not a Big Sur
okay.
Mac. It is,
right.
you know, the latest stable version of Mac OS.
Okay.
16-inch with the built-in graphics card thingy, whatever the default 16-inch from Red Hat is, because I got upgraded recently.
Cool.
So, I mean, it's not a weak laptop, that's for sure. It does have 16 gigs of RAM, but I'm only using 10 of it right now. So we'll see what happens.
And this process is pretty fast also. So in my instance, I have a 16 gig of laptop and I'm running four windows of Google Chrome and even coded containers.
Yeah.
So the memory part of it varies less, but I guess if it's on a very high-end configuration laptop, this should just take a few minutes and you will have an OpenShift instance running.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it's doing something in the background. It's not up and running yet, but it'll get there eventually. I have faith.
Yeah, it's that first boot up takes a while because it's got to pull the system images, and then the system images usually pull other system images, and then those ones need to pull the base image. I don't know. There's like layers of things that need to pull other images that all stack after each other. So
you mean the cloud is like an onion?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. It makes you cry. Oh man,
perfect. Absolutely perfect. Awesome. So anything else we want to talk about? Any questions from anybody? Like let's have a nice pause there. I feel like we've answered a lot of questions already. But yeah, this is running, like I tried to emphasize this in chat, this is running a cloud native environment on your local machine. You should expect some resource hogging, right? Like there's like for a single box, this is not an expected purpose, right? Like, you know, like I said, I in chat, I mentioned I bought an old Dell R820 that I'm going to use as my local install for OpenShift. Like it's not designed intentionally for lightweight use cases yet, if that makes sense, right? Serena and team are definitely working on making those use cases lighter, right? Like we have 3-node support now, trying to get down to single node support. You know, we've said that, and we're definitely looking to make the experience of running OpenShift a more enjoyable, lighter weight, faster, you know, kind of get up to speed. Oh, I can see HyperKit sucking up some memory now. Faster, get up to speed. CRC has check output. Process errored out. I imagine it's just a timeout at this point because it's definitely running. All right. Well, TBD. So, hi from Uruguay. Hello, Martin. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us. Oh, look, it's up and running. There you go. Yeah, it was just a timeout thing. Needed to refresh the status. So, yeah, it is currently using 10 gigs of disk, 12 gigs of cache, and I can open the OpenShift console here.
Let's see you open that OpenShift console.
Well, it says error connection refused, so it's not up and running yet. It's almost there.
Getting there.
But yeah, I guess I could share my screen if you wanted. It says it's running. Let's see. Refresh status. Okay, I'm gonna share the main screen here. Let's see if it doesn't break everything. I'll have to hide the Zoom window real quick though, so stick with me, folks. All right. Oh, the Zoom window moved itself. Good job, Zoom. Yes, I downloaded CentOS with a torrent. Shame on me. Let's see. So everybody can see my screen, the CRC testing window. Connection refused. I'm assuming it's just waiting for the right port to open. What port does it run on? Do we know?
It should be a default.
6443 should be. Oh, okay. So port 80.
I think.
Okay.
Unless it listed something specific in the output.
No. No, like I'm not seeing any. Like to be honest with you, I'm not seeing any output in the logs. That's kind of scary. Oh, OpenShift. There we go. Yeah, 457. Disk size is fine.
I'm not sure.
Oh, it's listening. Oh, it's listening on IPv6. Oh, that could cause some problems for me. So that could be a local machine issue. I have IPv6 issues here in the house.
And I'm not sure what resolves the host name there. If you need to set up some kind of DNS something.
Yeah.
Or if that's only resolvable from inside. Inside
so
the
if you can see,
IDE.
Here's the logs. Oh, that's from my old cluster. Never mind. This is a new cluster. OpenShift, CRC logs. Ta-da. All right, waiting 3 minutes. Okay. Provision, I'm not seeing.
You could try running CRC console in the terminal. I think Mohit also said there's some menu-based way to get to it.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, so
it's definitely doing something because my machine is starting to drag. All right, let's see.
I don't know if it'll be accessible from your terminal on your host machine, but if you use the embedded terminal within VSCode,
this guy,
then it might have that CRC binary in the path. I'm not exactly sure how it gets scoped in, but this one might have the right context, possibly. I don't know. Mohit might have more information.
Yeah, so if I guess OpenShift console action, which is there on the UI, that should basically open the it in browser.
Where on the UI is it?
So it's right here.
Yep. So if we
scroll down,
CRC version and OpenShift version, after that there's a box button.
Open OpenShift console. That guy right there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Come on, girl. You can do it. Yeah, connection refused. Weird.
Okay.
Do I need to do anything with my local firewall? That's a good question. Probably not, right? Like this is a certified app and everything. Where is sharing? There it is, security. Oh. Yeah, this is, yeah, it says running. All right. Anything special here? No, no warnings. Privacy, let's see. Anything in there?
Okay. I would like to throw down a challenge for anyone in chat to try to reproduce this
yeah.
issue.
yeah. Like,
and see if it works differently on a system other than Apple as well. It looks like we've got a couple tests on Apple. But we would love more feedback on your experiences trying to launch a full Kubernetes, multi-tenant Kubernetes OpenShift environment all out of your IDE as a plugin. That's a pretty massive plugin. Let's see how it works for you. Usually plugins aren't eating up that type of resource, usage. So let's see how it works on your system. Let us know. If possible, give us feedback next week. Drop some notes into chat if you don't get it running this week. Let us know how it goes if you do give it a try.
Yeah, and I just dropped in we have a Google group for the OpenShift developer users, right? So we can also, anybody wants to start a thread around if they try this out and want to share some of the notes off, off Twitch channel, you're welcome to do that as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because I feel like I'm just spinning against local instance issues. So, but yeah, once I get that figured out, I'll be up and running. No problem. But the install was quick and sweet. It just, something locally isn't working. So yeah, I have to figure that piece out. Is there a way to, well, I'll just turn off IPv6 on my box and try again. That's basically going to be my troubleshooting step. Yeah. All right. So Mohit, thank you so much. This has been great. This is wonderful. Truly, truly wonderful work too. So thank you to everyone that has worked on this and made this what appears to be a seamless experience. As soon as I figure out IPv6 and why that defaulted to that when I made IPv4 my default. Anyways, so yes, next week, Ryan, you got something cooking for us maybe?
Oh, we do. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what yet, but we will be cooking. That's for sure.
We are cooking. Yes. Good. So next up at the top of the hour, folks, is a special edition of OpenShift Commons briefing talking about Microsoft SQL. Say what? Huh? Yeah, Red Hat and Microsoft love each other. It's crazy the times we live in. I know 2020 blows your mind. But the idea is big data clusters on OpenShift with SQL, right? Like a lot of people have their data in SQL Server right now, but they need it in a cloud native way. So getting it over to OpenShift helps them do that, and you can run SQL Server and OpenShift no problem. So that's what we're looking forward to in 10 minutes and 45 seconds.
Excellent. Is that on the OpenShift Commons segment?
OpenShift Commons, and I will post a link in chat to the calendar as soon as it opens. Wow. So it's definitely running because my computer is laggy. There we go.
So something has successfully eaten all of my RAM.
I can't even get over to the activity monitor.
Be Kubernetes. All right.
Yeah, HyperKit's got 12 gigs of RAM going. So it's definitely up and running.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Serena. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Mohit. Wonderful experience today.
And thanks again to everyone in chat. Keep it coming. Let us know if you have any other topics or questions for us. And yeah, thanks again.
We look forward to seeing you soon.
Have a great day. Thanks.
See ya.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Cheers.